Fortnite. The addictive free-to-play game has recently become super relevant again, with the development team officially saying this is the highest amount of players in a single day ever. So today I thought we should go back in time and look at the extremely odd history of Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, this handheld device has some fascinating Fortnite lore, from exclusive items to whole entire console special editions, and the challenges faced getting official Nintendo skins in the game like Samus from Metroid or Splatoon Inklings, and of course the not so great experience current Nintendo Switch Fortniters have come to experience in the recent years. So let's take a deep dive of this incredibly complicated yet interesting history of Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch. When the game was first available on Switch, it was playable but with some issues. Playing the game on the go was fantastic, but there were a handful of things that were just not great about the Switch version next to the console competitors, like the lack of motion controls. It seems like any third-person shooter game on Switch needs motion controls. Let's face it, these dinky little sticks on the Joy-Cons aren't the most accurate. And with the Switch's enhanced gyro capabilities, like we saw in Splatoon 2, it was odd this feature wasn't here in the game on day one. At the beginning, the graphics weren't that great either, but the simple cartoony style of Fortnite made it feel a lot closer to the other console counterparts, unlike the incredibly obvious downgrades we see with similar games like Apex Legends. At launch, the Switch version had some obvious downgrades, like the overall resolution being 780p docked at a choppy 30 frames per second. There was also incredibly noticeable pop-in with foliage, textures, and other assets. The low resolution also made it difficult for players to see things in the distance, like other players or certain objects, which could be devastating in competitive play. This game also used dynamic resolution, where it would lower the overall resolution of the game when things got a little more intense, like when building or having multiple people in the area. And make sure you stay tuned because I'll be showing you how the Switch version of this game runs today. But let's go back to where it all began. Fortnite first launched on Nintendo Switch on June 12, 2018, directly after a Nintendo Direct. This was 9 months after the initial release on PC and other home consoles. For most, this game was a complete surprise as the Switch lacked many competitive shooters on it, and even fewer free-to-play titles. But Fortnite Battle Royale was actually rumored to be on this platform a few weeks prior to the announcement, from a post on 4chan showing that this was going to be at the E3 Nintendo Direct. There was also a Korean rating that leaked that this was going to be on Switch. It was also spotted on the Nintendo eShop a while before it was released, but there was no knowing when it was actually going to be available. So although most were surprised that this game was coming to the Switch, a lot of people already knew it was when it was leaked. In 2018, when this game was revealed, Fortnite fans were at an all-time high. Finally, Fortnite gamers could play this game handheld without needing to use their mobile touchscreen, as the mobile version came out a few months prior. Only a week after playing, players on Nintendo Switch started to notice an odd countdown appear on the in-game TVs. For some reason, this was only on the Switch, while other platforms got a skull on their TV. Many players figured it might have to do something with the launch of the Switch version or a countdown to a rocket launch, but it didn't. From what I could research, it didn't correspond with anything in particular. It was just random. Maybe the devs had planned but then later scrapped it. We may never know. On June 27th, the Switch received its first performance patch. This patch added some audio sound effects like footsteps and water, but mostly improved the Switch's performance while skydiving by reducing the rendering-related CPU hitches. Not a major improvement, but every little bit helps in a game like this. July 12, 2018, Season 5 launched, along with the Switch users finally getting the much-needed motion controls. This was game-changing. So many Switch users needed motion controls on Switch to help them fine-tune their aiming. I think it's because Splatoon 2 was massive back then, but a lot of people said it felt odd and janky. This was probably due to the lower frame rate this version had, which would introduce some input lag. At launch, this was a much appreciated upgrade for the Switch users. It was around August 2018 that there were a ton of Switch Fortniters that got extremely mad at Epic because of the absolute unplayable chaos. Yeah, Fortnite on Nintendo Switch was getting worse week by week and became practically unplayable with extreme lag, severe frame drops, textures that would just fail to load in, and a weird glitchy hitching mess. And this was mainly because of the increase in players during the Season 5 update, and the servers just couldn't keep up. Soon after, Epic Games responded with a patch for Switch users which helped alleviate some of these issues. On September 3rd, 2018, PlayStation continued being stubborn and wouldn't let PlayStation players cross-play with Switch users because PlayStation was the best way to play. That's what they said. This decision made Sony's share price take a hit by 2%. On top of this, Sony still didn't let PlayStation users transfer their cosmetics from one platform to another, limiting progression on one console from the other. Even Reggie chimed in on all the Fortnite drama, saying, "We embrace working with the developer and enabling them to bring their vision to life, and whether that's Fortnite, whether that's a number of other games that have cross-platform play on our console, from a developer standpoint, that's what we want, and we work hard with them to bring that to life. What competitors do is their decision to make. We believe being both developer forward and fan forward is the best interest of the game." This wouldn't be the last we hear from Nintendo directly. Because of all the performance backlash from just a week prior, Epic Games officially announced they would be working on another patch with Nintendo's help. I guess you could consider this to be Nintendo and Epic Games' first attempt at collaboration. In the meantime, Epic Games mentioned some potential reasons Switch users could be experiencing issues. They recommended installing the game directly on the Switch's internal storage and not an SD card, as not SD cards are all created equally, and some speed simply couldn't handle the vast open world of Fortnite. Having a game installed on an SD card could result building in skins not loading in fast enough. Only 3 days later, on September 6, 2018, version 5.40 was released, which addressed some of the issues still facing the Switch version. Motion control options were improved, texture loading in issues were resolved, which reduced issues with buildings loading in later, improved sound quality when dropping from the bus, and for the first time on Switch, they added touchscreen support to the full screen map, allowing you to quickly mark the map. Even with all these improvements, the Nintendo Switch version wasn't running all too well. So to continue optimization, Epic Games decided on removing the video capture feature from the game. If you didn't know, the Switch can capture 30-second clips from gameplay. This feature built into the Switch was always running in the background recording, which ate some of the system's already limited resources. This feature in Fortnite was causing the game to slow down significantly, so they patched it out. Fortnite community coordinator Sean Hamilton said, "You may have noticed we've disabled the video capture feature on Nintendo Switch as of the version 5.40.2 client update. This was done for performance and stability reasons, as we've been seeing a high rate of out-of-memory related crashes. Disabling this feature saves a significant amount of RAM while also having a positive effect on overall performance across the board." This eventually became common practice for more graphically advanced games on the Switch. September 18th saw the announcement of our first console Fortnite bundle. The Nintendo Switch, the Helix bundle would eventually drop on October 5th, 2018. This Switch exclusive bundle comes with a skin, back bling, a glider, pickaxe, and 1,000 V-Bucks. It was also the same price as the regular Switch, which meant if you liked Fortnite and you wanted a Switch, this seemed to be the perfect bundle. There wasn't anything special about the Switch itself, it was just a regular neon red and blue Joy-Con model. The only physical thing that was different was the box. Today, this bundle is worth so much. Having one of these codes can go for thousands of dollars on eBay, so if you have one laying around, sell it. And finally, after 1 month after Sony stated they wouldn't be doing cross-platform play with other platforms, they caved. Starting September 26th, players on all platforms could play with each other. While this was great for friends on different platforms, it still didn't resolve the issue with transferring cosmetics from one platform to another. Players still needed to use different platform-specific accounts. And for another shocker, on October 9th, Epic Games announced they'd be doing their very first physical release for this free game. The first physical copy of Fortnite was the Deep Freeze bundle. This was available on all platforms, the Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. This came with the Frostbite outfit, the Cold Front glider, the Chillax pickaxe, Freezing Point, back bling, and 1,000 V-Bucks. And you could get this all for $30 on November 16th, 2019. Perfect for the holiday seasons. Something interesting about this release is that for some reason, the PlayStation and Switch version only came with codes, whereas the Xbox version came with a disc. All the disc did was download the free version of Fortnite. Anyways, if you want to learn more about that, you can go check out my other videos where I talk about useless physical games. Moving on. Shortly after, it was reported that Fortnite on Switch had been downloaded 10 million times. At this point, the Switch had only sold 22 million units, which means almost half the people who owned a Switch had Fortnite. It's not as impressive when you know it's a free-to-play game, but still, that's a lot of people. Fast forward a couple months later, at the end of December, the Switch version was updated to get the long-awaited Career tab. This tab allows you to check stats from Battle Royale, like playtime, eliminations, and of course, Victory Royales. Although the Switch version had one massive flaw with this tab, it didn't work. There were no stats for anyone. It just didn't work. It would eventually, but this was an odd choice to implement a feature that simply didn't do anything yet. Moving into 2019, in January, Nintendo revealed that Fortnite was the most played Switch game in Europe in 2018, beating out heavy hitters like Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and Mario Kart 8. In late January, Nintendo Switch users were simply at a disadvantage, but not because of the graphics or anything. It was the frame rate. And although that might seem obvious, there was something wrong here. Digital Foundry ran a test on this version, comparing it to the 60 frames per second counterpart, and it was found that higher frame rates would actually increase the fire rate of weapons by 5.2%. This means that players on Switch were officially dealing 5.2% less damage than players on other consoles. This was clearly unintentional and would be patched in the following update. At the beginning of 2019, players were finally able to merge two accounts together with a PlayStation console. You had to first choose both a primary and secondary account. The secondary accounts would be disabled, and any in-game item and V-Bucks would be held for 2 weeks while the accounts merged. This still wasn't cross-progression, but it was the beginning of the platforms finally starting to work together. On February 27, 2019, it was a sad day for the Switch community, when Epic would officially confirm the frame rate on Switch would never be improved. During a Reddit AMA, Fortnite devs would say there were no plans to improve the frame rate, which makes sense. There wasn't any more juice to squeeze out of the Switch. There's already been so many graphical setbacks, and you'd have to play at 144p to play this at 60 frames per second on Switch anyways. March 2019. Would you believe me if Fortnite collabed with the 3DS version of Kirby's Epic Yarn? Well, they did, but it was probably a mistake. When Kirby's Epic Yarn re-released on the 3DS, Nintendo allowed fans to download a digital wallpaper for their phones and computers via Nintendo's website. On this wallpaper in the top left corner, you'll find the Fortnite logo. This must have been a mistake, right? Well, it's not the last we'll see of Kirby in Fortnite. A few months later, with the release of Chapter 9, apparently there were even more Nintendo Switch performance patches, with one note mentioning that they managed to improve performance when there was a large amount of characters on screen. It was on September 4th, 2019 that the first evidence of Fortnite and Nintendo in-game collab was going to happen, as multiple people found a skin and back bling with the word Squid Kid in the files. If you're unaware, these are the playable characters from Splatoon. This rumor kind of made sense. These were both massive third-person shooters on Switch, and while it sounded like a great idea, we would never see inklings in the game. In November 2019, we finally saw the second physical release, the Fortnite Darkfire bundle. You wouldn't know this at the time, but this is one of the rarest physical versions of Fortnite, definitely one of the hardest to find. I just so happened to randomly come across it. This comes with skins and wraps, and is the only Switch version that has a sleeve on the case, so that's interesting. Also, there's different box arts on the sleeve. It's cool. That's the last we heard about Fortnite and Nintendo for a while, until May 2020 when Fortnite announced Party Royale. This released a trailer which showed our pink puffball Kirby again. This was oddly blurred out on the PlayStation and Xbox trailers, and the original trailer on the Fortnite channel was also eventually blurred. Nintendo just straight up didn't post a version of this video at all. It's speculated that this was a mistake from the devs, but this is the second time we've seen Kirby in a Fortnite crossover, which would never actually happen. And finally, in the summer of 2020, Epic Games managed to convince Sony to finally allow cross-progression across all platforms, which means you could use a PS4 or Xbox with silky smooth graphics and at any point move to another platform like Switch and have all your levels and cosmetics. This was a huge deal and a big reason that I still play today. All players needed to do is link their PlayStation Network, Microsoft, or Nintendo account to one Epic account. One thing that got a little complicated was when players didn't have an Epic account tied to any platform, because you didn't need to link any account to an Epic account. But that was an easy fix, as the Epic accounts are free. In October 2020, there was the first unique Nintendo Switch hardware for Fortnite. This was an entire special edition Switch, with custom prints on the dock, on the back of the console, and the Joy-Con. The dock and console had iconic skins from the game, while the Joy-Cons were blessed with this oddly placed battle bus, with the battle bus balloon being the home button. It works, it's just kind of odd. Not only did this have a unique physical design, but it also had exclusive downloadable cosmetics, with the Wildcat outfit, back bling, and 2,000 V-Bucks. This was an absolute steal for the Fortnite lovers out there. It's a little more common than other Switch special editions, but if the code isn't in there. An unused code is heavily sought after, and is regularly found online for over $500. On November 17, 2020, there was another physical release, this being the Last Laugh bundle, which included DC skins, like the Joker, and had some other weapons and DC stuff. In December 2020, there was multiple rumors about another Nintendo IP. This time, people speculated about Samus from Metroid, so much so that Samus was even trending on Twitter. The main speculation came from when Epic said, "Join the greatest hunters from across realities." This was mainly meant for the inclusion of the Mandalorian skin from Star Wars, but was soon followed by Kratos from PlayStation, and even got an Xbox rep, Master Chief. So both PlayStation and Xbox had their own IPs. Nintendo had to be next. Yet again, we never saw any Metroid representation officially. Now that being said, let's talk about Master Chief and Kratos. This would be their official debut on a Nintendo console. Having these characters being played on the Switch is just the coolest feeling, and it really shows how crazy these crossovers are. But the crossovers don't end there, because just a few months later, we got Street Fighter characters, Ryu and Chun-Li. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, Ryu is in Super Smash Bros. This means Nintendo could work with them eventually, right? Well, I guess there is a way to connect all these franchises, but Nintendo and Street Fighter are two separate companies, with Nintendo being Nintendo and Street Fighter being owned by Capcom. So although Nintendo has worked with Capcom and Epic has worked with Capcom, there's no direct link between Epic and Nintendo. This is because Nintendo does not want their IPs on another platform, mainly for console sales. As long as Nintendo's characters stay on Nintendo hardware, people are forced to buy Nintendo hardware for their exclusive software. As soon as they move even a little to another platform, people could start speculating and just wait on the other platforms. It would just open the floodgates to something that Nintendo just doesn't want to happen. In March 2021, Joy-Cons, which look, in this pair of exclusive Joy-Cons, there's a dark blue and yellow set. They even have DLC included, a pickaxe, glider, and 500 V-Bucks. But most importantly, there's a peely design on the front, which just looks weird. Whose idea was this? Having the one eye be the home button is so odd. There's also two designs on the back, with Nana Nana on the yellow and the Fortnite F on the blue one. These are just weird designs. It's kind of like someone just found a bunch of Fortnite assets and put them on a pair of Joy-Cons. I remember seeing so many of these in stores, and they would just be rotting on the shelf. But when I recently tried to look for them, I couldn't find them anywhere. I did eventually find them used on Facebook Marketplace for $70 Canadian, which is $30 less than the retail price, but I didn't get the code, as most of these controllers are used, and the cheapest I could find them new is $250 $50. I should have bought it back when it was available. Also in March 2021, Fortnite announced there would be a substantial update to Fortnite on the Switch, increasing the resolution while also giving the game a more stable frame rate. The most notable thing being the resolution with a decent boost to 1170 by 660p handheld and 1390 by 780 to 1560 to 880p dock. This was obviously still low compared to the other consoles, but it was a great feature that was definitely needed. This was evident in the screenshots Epic provided showing the sharper results. There was a lot that Epic did to improve the overall resolution. They decreased the shadows and removed a lot of the textures on the ground. Well, some of them. They took out a handful of useless assets like grass and the lighting elements. Because they optimized the overall graphics and the map, they were able to increase the overall resolution. And this was a very welcome update. After this, we got another PlayStation skin in Fortnite, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn. I wanted to mention this again because having a Fortnite IP on the Nintendo Switch is just so awesome. In May 2021, Samus was once again being discussed. During the Apple lawsuit with Epic Games, a document showed some future plans about content and skins that would be added into Fortnite. It showed multiple characters and some eventually did make it into the game, as we saw with Naruto. And of course, on this document, we saw plans for Samus. We can only assume that this was an internal idea that Epic had, and they hadn't got the go-ahead from Nintendo. Just 2 weeks later, even more rumors about Samus would surface. If you didn't know, Fortnite has official comics. Batman/Fortnite 0. Issue number 3. You could see a silhouette of Samus. This seemed like another piece of evidence pointing towards her arrival. 2021 ended with Fortnite having another physical release, the Minty Legends Pack. This included 3 skins with the Minty Love. It's got back bling, pickaxes, a skin, a wrap, and you gotta love that it comes with V-Bucks as well. In February 2022, Fortnite added even more exclusive features to the Switch to enhance the gyro. Here we got to see the addition of flick stick controls. Gyro controls can offer more precision than standard stick aiming, but they don't have to replace it entirely. With flick stick, for example, pointing the right stick moves the camera quickly in its direction. I personally don't use these controls, but I thought it was a cool addition for those who use mainly gyro. Another collab that I think is worth mentioning came in May 2022, the Pac-Man collab. Unfortunately, this doesn't have Pac-Man as a playable skin. This just has some unique back bling and an emote. I mention this here because just like Ryu, this franchise has had some correlation with Nintendo in the Super Smash Bros. Franchise. In September 2022, Nintendo officially licensed Fortnite SD cards with SanDisk. This is quite fitting, as the amount of storage Fortnite takes up on the Switch is probably more than any other game on there. When you get these micro SD cards, you're even rewarded with an exclusive in-game wrap. There's also 2 more physical releases of Fortnite. The Anime Legends skins on October 14, 2022, and the Transformers skin on October 13, 2023. These had cool anime and Transformers back blings and skins, and also each included V-Bucks. So that's some of the history of Fortnite on the Switch. But what's the current state of this game? Because of the graphics have got so much better on the other consoles, the Switch needed to make even more graphical cutbacks to keep up, especially with the inclusion of Unreal Engine 5, which shouldn't even be running on Switch at all. Well, loading in takes much longer than other systems, and that's a trend you'll find constantly in the Switch version. While entering maps in Battle Royale, a lot of the time you will join the game on the bus. It takes so long that you might not even join the lobby before you end up in the game. Same with finding a server in the first place. Even on the same internet connection, it took longer to get into a match. The character models also take a massive hit, especially the anime characters. The cell shading is almost non-existent. Look how cursed Morty looks. Goku looks like he could Kamehameha in his pants, whatever that means. While you're in the game, most of the other skins look pretty decent. Most reflections and textures just look kind of flat. It's when you're dropping in, you'll see a huge downgrade. Your model is extremely low poly. It gets better rather fast, but still, it looks silly. Sometimes your skin doesn't even load in, and it'll show you as the default. And a lot of the time, other people on the map you'll see as defaults, when actually they have skins. I know that because I've cross-played with my brother on PS5, and I can see the other people's skins on that, but they just look like default skins to me on Switch. Playing the game is exactly how you'd expect. Low resolution, 30 frames per second, and bad textures. Now, it's completely playable, but only sometimes. You pretty much need a pro controller if you're playing seriously. You'll need a full-size controller for the advanced gyro features this controller has. So why did I buy these? Playing the game on Joy-Cons is almost impossible. See, it is nice to use gyro with separate Joy-Cons, and I actually prefer using split Joy-Cons in gyro-based games like Splatoon 3. Playing handheld is another story though. Handheld is not that comfortable. It's much harder to aim and shoot. Maybe I haven't gotten incredibly used to it, or my hands are just too big and manly, but my skill level definitely tanks when I'm in handheld. If I have to play handheld, it's usually best to put it on a table and use a separate controller or even split Joy-Cons. As mentioned, the game's graphics look phenomenal on current gen consoles, especially after the infamous Unreal Engine 5 update, which made substantial differences in the first place. And because of this, the Switch version looks even worse comparatively. Now, obviously, there's a massive hardware difference, but just look at this. The shadows and lighting are so much better. On PS5, there's shadows on each blade of grass, and you can see so much texture on the walls and the ground. You can definitely see it when you compare the footage side by side in an open field with grass. Look how much more grass there is! And look how sad the Switch version looks. There's so much texture on the objects further away. The trees actually look like trees on PS5. There's different colored leaves leaves and depth in the trees. With the Switch version, the trees look like blobs. And the PS5 can do all these graphics at 4K 60 frames per second, and can even get up to 120 frames per second with a slightly lower resolution and lighting effects. Not that we would expect this kind of performance on a handheld device, but just seeing what the game can look and play like makes the Switch feel worse. But coming back to the Switch, it just isn't great unless you have no other way to play. But that's the joy of this game. The Switch is another way to play, especially if you play with someone else on another console. Now, speaking of someone else, the Switch version doesn't have local split screen, like most of the other current gen consoles. Local split screen is a great way to play Fortnite, but there's also a handful of other issues I've noticed, like glitching scopes and duplicated 3D visualization. Anyways, the Switch doesn't do split screen, so whatever. There's simply no way it could run it, even though the Switch is the most convenient local co-op device. Another feature that's missing is Save the World. This is the original Fortnite before Battle Royale. Save the World never made it to the Switch, which made sense because it never sold well. It severely underperformed after years and years of development. So why would they put even more time porting it to a console, especially after the massive success of Battle Royale? We've come a long way with Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch, from its incredibly popular launch through its many upgrades and performance patches that saw player counts rise with time. But has Fortnite on Switch finally passed its prime? It definitely seems so. What was once a massively popular game on this handheld, we've seen more and more players switch to more powerful console versions as they became available. As such, the player base on Switch has definitely started to dwindle. What's great is that with crossplay, the Switch version hasn't become completely irrelevant, but its days on the system are definitely numbered. It hasn't gotten worse with time, just compared to the other versions, it definitely looks and feels a lot worse as time goes on. With everything negative I've said, we have to remember, the Switch is on its 7th year, and even when it came out, it was underpowered. This is an extremely impressive port, and we need to temper our expectations. Even though it's not the best way to play, it works. It's a great option when I can't sit on my PS5 or if I'm away from home. And the way this game uses cross progression is absolutely fantastic. But let me know, do you still play Fortnite on Nintendo Switch? And what do you think about it? Please consider liking and subscribing. I've see you in the next one. See you later.